Hey guys, it's Agent
All right.
Johnson. Can you hear me? Yeah, it's Agent Johnson. All right, so I got an intel brief to give you about five. So again, make sure you have my frequency. All right. So, but again, Agent Johnson got an important intel brief, confidential, so keep quiet. All right, but stay tuned.
All right. This is KJ coming to you with some Marvel updates. So, a little background on me. I love Marvel. I've loved it ever since I was a very young kid. I actually got into it via the X Men. So, maybe you probably read the comics on that. And now we're in the time of the MCU, right? The Marvel Cinematic Universe. And they've just been bringing us some great stuff. So, I'm just going to give you some updates on movies and a couple of the shows and even a couple of nuggets for WandaVision. Not any spoilers, so don't worry. I know a lot of people haven't watched it yet. So with that, let's just go ahead and get right into it. I love this stuff. As you can see from my background, I've been collecting stuff for a while. So yes, this is a love of mine. Got really into it when the MCU started doing great things on the big screen. So it's just bringing the characters to life. So I'm loving what they're doing. I'm loving it. So, with that being said, I'll begin with the obvious mention of so with Endgame ending, right? There's been with Endgame came the 22 film saga, right? Over the course of 11 years, starting off with Iron Man 2008, and then of course ending with Endgame a couple years ago, right? So, with that being said, the directors and such with Marvel or MCU have been kind of slowing down a little bit in regards to communicating exactly what they were going to do for the future in regards to Marvel, in regards to MCU. But up until the Comic Con 2019, which is when directors and such, namely President Kevin Feige, started to actually put some stuff out there in detail in regards to what things were actually going to be happening. And I have gotten the latest and greatest and research and make sure I double checked. So we have some great things coming up, even more so than a couple weeks ago. So let's just go right into it. So of course, COVID has a feel. You'll see this in many of the reviews that I'm going to be communicating. So a lot of the delays, of course, COVID related. I say that now, so that way I'm going to repeat myself with every movie. So if it's seems like it's delayed, it's delayed because of COVID-19. So with that being said, the first one we're going to go over is Black Widow. Black Widow. All right. The release date is set for May 7th, 2021. May 7th, 2021. So far, that has not changed in the last couple of weeks. So I'm happy to say that has not changed. So it looks like it's going to change. Look like that they're pretty much in post production right now. So wrapping things up. So again, May 7th, 2021. All right, is when that is supposed to be coming out. The director is Kate Shortland. And of course, you can imagine the cast is going to be Scarlett Johansson, Rachel Weisz, Florence Pugh, Oti Flagman, and David Harbour. All right, so for those who weren't, to kind of summarize kind of its plot, right? They're kind of keeping wraps on most of the plot, but of course, Black Widow spinoff, is basically created during the time of after Civil War. You might have remember the communication between Black Widow and Iron Man as they communicated that they were, that she was going to kind of just go her own way, whatever like that. After she kind of gave up the 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 coup a little bit when she allowed Captain America to get away, right? So since she was obviously going to be reported for that, as Iron Man did note to her, she then went off, and so the film Black Widow is supposed to be basically framed to there's of course the big question between Civil War, Infinity War, what was everybody doing? The last time we saw Black Widow, she had long dark hair. We see her in Infinity War, she has short blondish hair, right? What happened? And how long was that in between, right? So that's supposed to help fill that gap, okay? And you can expect as far as the actual characters that are going to be in there. It's going to be Red Guardian, who's played by Harbor, and then which is supposed to be like a USSR equivalent of Captain America, basically. And then you have Pugh again, Florence Pugh, which is playing Yelena. All right, and her character is actually, if you look in the comics, is actually supposed to replace Black Widow at some point. So at some point when Natasha dies or whatever moves on in the comics, this is the character who's supposed to take over and be the new Black Widow for the Avengers. So be looking for that because that could be a possibility, obviously going forward with this movie. that could launch that forward and maybe possibly connect into the MCU big time. So if you kind of be looking for that, and again, that showtime will be May 7th, 2021. That is current as of now. So we looking really looking for that this summer. All right. Also coming out this summer, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Now this will be the first Kung Fu, mostly Asian cast. Okay, they're kind of looking at Black Panther as kind of the template of how they're going to kind of direct and create that atmosphere, right? So that's pretty much where that's set is in regards to the casting. The main cast is going to be Simu Liu. The director is Destin Cretton. All right, so what it's supposed to be about, and again, kind of keep it a niche on the actual specific plot. But if you read in the comics, Shang-Chi was raised and trained by his father in martial arts. But then, of course, when he learns that his father is evil, he turns on him, right? So they're probably going to be spinning off of that mindset, okay? And again, mostly Asian cast. But what they also put out is that they're going to have a character who I believe is Tony Lang, and that character will be playing the Mandalorian. Now, you might have remembered that name, okay? That cast member or character was played in Iron Man 3, to which we all found out, midway or whatever, that didn't even really exist, right? So it was a fake, um, Mandalorian that was created by the antagonist, who was played. Ooh, I can't remember his name right now. But played by one of Iron Man's old enemies that he made long ago before that. And so we basically created the Mandalorian by creating an actor to play him and being the hidden antagonist, from behind. So that was kind of how that was playing out. And of course, many uh, customers, but fans did not like the fact that it was a fake Mandalorian. I thought it was a genius idea, and what an interesting concept to have somebody build a basically a self-made terrorist threat, right? I think is how you put it in the movie. So I thought it was a genius, but of course many didn't. So for those who were not very happy with that, don't worry. The Mandalorian will be in motion and in truth via Tony Lang in this July premiere of ShangChi and Legend of the Ring. So if you look for that, July 9th, 2021. Okay. Going on to the next one, we got Eternals, right? So there are many cast members on here. That's supposed to be coming out November 5th, 2021. The cast members I will actually enunciate will be the ones that most of us probably know, which is Selma Hayek and Angelina Jolie, right? So there are going to be two of the characters that'll be in that movie. Now, what is Eternals, right? For those who don't know, don't didn't read comics like that. So just remember back when we were watching Guardians of the Galaxy 2, right? Where Quill's father was, somehow was able to take out an entire space army or whatever like that with one snap or whatever, right? Because he was somewhat of an internal, of the elite, right? So this is kind of what we're looking at, with a whole squad of semi, pretty much nearly immortal beings, right? So even higher than that of those in Asgard that we saw. Okay, so we're looking for that. There's not really much in regards to actual plots with it, but again, be looking for an even higher end of power and excitement when it comes to what these beings are going to be able to produce. So I'm kind of excited because these are Eternals and they're like somewhat higher than what Asgard is, and there are even some reports saying um, that Thanos was somehow connected in some way and maybe might have been one himself or whatever. So there's a lot of little things kind of peeking out there and curiosities and whatnot. But it's supposed to be a great upscale, of course, of the powers that we've already seen with WandaVision going on, and also know how Captain Marvel is. If there's supposed to be something out there that's more powerful than that, I don't know about you, but I can't wait to see what that looks like on screen. So be looking for that November 5th, 2021. Again, it's in post production right now, so it's like a lot of it is pretty much done in regards to the filming aspect, but just be looking for that this winter. Again, November 5th, 2021. All right, so Spider-Man. Right now, we're calling the Far From Home sequel. That has not been a name that's been specifically etched out yet in regards to what it's going to be named, but we can be assured what's probably going to be involved in it. If you haven't seen tiny little tidbits already sent out, well, I'm here to confirm some of those rumors. So, director John Waltz, all right, status right now is currently filming. Okay, the cast, as you can imagine, is Tom Holland, Zendaya, Jacob Batalon, Benedict Cumberbatch, Alfred Molina, Andrew Garfield, Kirsten Dunst, and Jamie Foxx. Now, if you didn't recognize some of those names from other movies, let me help enlighten you, right? So Benedict Cumberbatch, as we all know, as Doctor Strange, is going to be in that movie. What does that mean? That means that one, it's going to be an outstanding, movie. Any movie that has more than one of the MCU Avenger characters, packed together again, this is going to be awesome, right? So we can assume also, as some reports were saying, that Doctor Strange will also be kind of taking the form of a kind of a superior mentor, whatever that to Spider-Man. So of course, we all know that Iron Man did, die. Sorry if you haven't seen Endgame yet, but it's time, y'all. So Iron Man died at the end, right? And so because of that, of course, Spider-Man is without so much of a like a mentor. Of course, he has his aunt, who's I'm not sure what age she is, but she looks 25, right? So that is the part that Benedict Cumberbatch is supposed to be playing in regards to Spider-Man. I guess we can call Spider-Man 3 for now. Okay. What part would that play and how does it connect? Well, we can probably connect the fact that there's another movie coming after that, which I will get into, right? That will connect to all these things. And you'll understand what I'm talking about as I go forward into the movies, right? But again, what you might have also realized, I mentioned Andrew Garfield, Kirsten Dunst, Jamie Foxx, and Alfred Molina. These were characters from two different Spider-Man genres. So, and he's Tobey Maguire. That means the two of the other Spider-Mans that many of us who have been alive at least the last 2 decades, I remember those two genres, all right, kind of going away. And then, of course, a recast happened with Tom Holland. So with that, you can imagine there's going to be a multiverse in nature. We're going to have all three Spider-Man along with some of their villains like Jamie Foxx and Alfred Molina play. So be looking for that. Okay, there's not really much of a breakdown in regards to the actual plot, but as you can imagine, it's going to be multiverse in nature. And what it actually is, so hopefully, it's supposed to pan out. So, of course, you probably remember the fiasco that happened at the end of Spider-Man 2, right? Far From Home. What you probably recall is, at the end, him kind of being put on blast, everyone being kind of knowing who he is, which isn't really too far from his predecessor, because everyone knew who Iron Man was, but also naming him as a possible villain. So, hopefully, by the end of this movie coming up, it's supposed to help rectify all that. So, of course, he can rejoin the MCU and rejoin the Avengers as it should, right? So again, filming the sequel was due to begin in summer 2020, but because of things that we could not control, it has been delayed, 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 delayed. And so the current release date is December 17th, 2021. That's December 17th this year. So hopefully it doesn't get delayed any further. But of course, we'll give you updates along the way if there are any changes. All right, and of course, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. That's interesting. It's right after Spider-Man 3. Yes, they're really smart in the way they release things because, as you can imagine, there are probably going to be little tidbits and Easter eggs at each of these movies, like there always were up until Endgame. So be looking for those things to kind of help you figure out what's going to be next, right? Which I'm kind of give you that hint already, right? So wink, wink. Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness that'll be releasing March 25th, 2022. Okay, it's in pre-production right now, so obviously they're still kind of getting things together. People are still arriving on set. The director is Sam Raimi right now. Again, we have Benedict there, Elizabeth Olsen. All right, you might recognize that name. We'll connect those dots here in a second. Rachel McAdams, which played the love interest of Doctor Strange in the first one. And then Benedict Wong, who plays his ally, who you also see in Infinity War and Endgame, right? And then Chiwetel Ejiofor. I probably got the name wrong, but this was the other gentleman who was Doctor Strange's and Benedict Wong's ally up until the end of the movie. And then if you saw the nugget in the movie, he kind of took away the power from one of another guy who was holding it in order to not be crippled. So if you saw that, then you kind of already knew he's probably going to come in as a villain whenever the next movie is. So this is probably going to be it. Kind of been expected. I think many of the fans probably expected him to come back as a villain, as it was kind of leading you to believe. So it's been confirmed that he's going to be a part of the cast. So we can assume that he will be at least one of the antagonists. Not necessarily reveal if he'll be the primary one or not. But for right now, we know that he's going to be in the movie as Doctor Strange's opposite. Okay. And with that, of course, Elizabeth Olsen. Now, you might have already realized, if you haven't already, please, 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 please watch WandaVision. We'll get more into that kind of toward the end here. Talk about a little bit, not too much, but we'll talk about a little bit. But WandaVision is currently going on. I believe it has 4 or 5 more episodes to go. So it's been going for like a few weeks now. Okay, it's going great. But this is supposed to help connect Elizabeth Olsen to Doctor Strange, which means you guys need to get online and watch WandaVision. So it's on Disney Plus right now, and it's great. So you need to watch that so that way you're caught up on things happening because it's going to spin right off of the WandaVision series that's playing right now. So when you see this movie, then it'll help connect that. So just make sure that you don't miss that opportunity. So, all right, so again, that's going to be coming out March 25th, 2022. So Thor: Love and Thunder. The potential release date for that is May 6th, 2022. All right. So the director Taika Waititi. Okay. The cast is going to be Chris Hemsworth, obviously, Natalie Portman, Tessa Thompson, Christian Bale. So you probably notice the first three are pretty obvious, right? So Chris Hemsworth, of course, claims his role as Thor. Natalie Portman, who might have been semi-forgotten after her appearances only in the Thor movies and pretty much hardly any at all in any of the actual Avengers movies, right? So there were reports that maybe she just wasn't feeling the whole Marvel MCU thing, whatever like that. So I think she stepped down for a while, but she was requested and asked to come back as Jane Foster to kind of reclaim that role, right? And she's supposed to be the MCU's first female Thor, right? If you read comics, then typically there's a couple of different scenarios in which they could follow in regards to how she becomes female Thor, whether she was sick because of the stone power that went through her in Thor Dark World, and or because she became a little more powerful, then she realized that maybe that kind of helps enhance her abilities, and thus, putting Earth in some dire straits that requires her attention. She hooks up with Thor to understand her powers. Boom, boom, boom. She becomes Mighty Thor, right? So those are several different theories out there, but her part, her role that she is playing, most definitely the female Thor portion. So it'd be awesome to see how they connect that and how it becomes to be, right? And then of course you have Tessa Thompson. I know who that is, of course. One who plays, of course, Valkyrie, right? Saw her in Infinity War. Saw her in no, not Infinity War. I'm sorry. You saw her in Endgame. You saw her in Thor Ragnarok, of course, right? So again, bringing her back to reclaim her role. Of course, you remember at the end of Endgame, she became the actual king of Asgard or New Asgard, right? So now she will be again obviously assisting Thor in some form against the antagonist, which is supposed to be Christian Bale. So Christian Bale's supposed to be taking the part of what is that again? Of Gore the God Butcher, right? So you can imagine, I guess he's just in the business of taking out gods, which I guess kind of makes sense why there's an issue, right? So again, he'll be playing the antagonist. All right, Christian Bale again joining as Gore the God Butcher. Don't know if there's been any secondary or other antagonists, and or it's not been confirmed. There have been questions whether or not we'll see Loki in this movie or not. But one thing that might not be confirmed on here, anything that I looked up so far, but definitely has been some things that have been floating around, and because of reports of people being seen on the lot in which they're actually filming. We have reports that we have seen some members like Chris Pratt and the woman who played Lady Sif on the set. So we can obviously assume, if nothing else, that they'll have at least a small part to play in Thor: Love and Thunder. So again, not named here, but with Lady Sif and Chris Pratt being seen on set, we can assume Guardians of the Galaxy will be at least cameoing in some form in this movie. So obviously, we were left in game. Thor boarded their ship at the end, so of course we can assume that they're going to be together in some form. And then also, of course, Lady Sif, who of course we were looking, trying to figure out where she was all of Thor Ragnarok, because obviously if you've seen that movie, you know that all his other close allies or warriors were killed, right, by his sister. So Lady Sif was the only one to escape her wrath. Where she was during this time and all that, I'm sure they'll probably re-explain that or enter that possibility or potential scenario in some way. But she's on she's on record to be part of this cast, as far as we know. So again, more developments to come with that, and of course, they're filming at this point. So any updates will probably be given at a later time, but that is the current. So expect that you'll see Lady Sif and that you will see Guardians of the Galaxy along with the other cast members mentioned. All right. And again, that'll be coming out in May 6th, 2022. Black Panther 2. So sadly, as we all know, we lost the main actor who was played by Chadwick Boseman um, as far as Black Panther. So things have been paused and then unpaused and then paused again, then unpaused. The question of questions is whether or not to recast. So as far as Kevin Feige has revealed as of 1 December, T'Challa will not be recast because obviously it means to honor his memory and the great thing that he did with that part. Again, maybe only having one movie, but actually shooting in four. So he only had his own one movie, which is Black Panther, of course. But of course, we saw him initially in Civil War, right? Which was before Black Panther, and then following Black Panther, we saw Infinity War and Endgame, right? When he was interested in all four movies, right? A very important part in all four. Played beautifully, Black Chadwick Boseman. So they didn't want to disrespect his memory, while still, of course, wanting to continue the franchise. So comics and many other co-directors would conclude that Shuri, his younger sister, played in the movie, will most likely get the role, but of course, we're trying to figure out exactly how that happened because it's not like Black Panther passed away at the end of Endgame. So they have to figure out a way to either CGI him or come up with some interesting scenario that maybe he just decided to give it up and marry his girlfriend, whatever. So they're coming up with obviously different scenarios on how to honor that and do it the right way, versus just writing him off and having another actor play him as if nothing has happened. So they don't want to recast T'Challa in that form, but they will most definitely probably sustain some sort of scene that will encompass the death of Black Panther officially, and then giving the mantle officially over to his sister. So that is the plan, I believe. Um, they don't want to just write it off, but they do want to honor him as much as they can. So with that, as you can imagine, there's not very much development on that movie because they're going back and forth on how they're going to do it. So just expect that development to come in the coming year or so. And again, not even the cast has been confirmed yet. So they're still looking into that because they're trying to figure out who exactly is going to be in it and villain and so forth and all that, just to confirm whether or not they're actually going to keep it going as they have perceived that they're going to T'Challa this for a while. So again, that's more of a somber one, but one that they're definitely wanting to push as best we can. All right, so Captain Marvel 2. Okay, November 11th, 2022, in development, right? So Captain Marvel 2 will be, of course, cast with Brie Larson, Iman Vellani, and Tiana Paris. Okay, not sure how good you guys are with keep up with names. I'm not very good at how to research these names myself. So it turns out Iman Vellani is going to be playing Miss Marvel, right? Right now she has her own Disney series, I believe. And then the supporting role in the film will also be having Tiona Paris. Now, Tiona Paris is currently um, the actress who was playing the adult Monica Rambeau. So we all remember Monica Rambeau was Lieutenant Trouble, right? So she was the daughter of Captain Marvel's best friend, Maria Rambeau, who of course, if you saw WandaVision, you kind of connect the dots and how all that transpired. And I won't give any spoilers, but watch that. That would answer some questions in regards to how Monica Rambeau kind of becomes who she is in this movie. Again, it's another reason to watch WandaVision because this whatever happens during this season that's currently right now is going to connect to quite a few movies. Okay, so again, watch WandaVision is another footstop. So Tiana Paris will be reprising her role as Monica Rambeau. All right, that again is debuting right in the very much right now WandaVision. And we'll be joining Brie Larson in that cast. Not much of a development in regards to the plot, but those are the actors at least. You can kind of know um, possibility, obviously. Right now, they're looking at it being a present day because, of course, there was some talk about where was Captain Marvel before the events of Endgame, meaning like where she like, and in the movie Endgame, she was gone for a while and didn't show up until the end where she destroyed the spaceship, right? So where was she before then? Is the movie going to communicate where she was at that time, all those years over the 5 years after the blip, right? Or are they going to go present day? So it looks like they're going to go present day, but of course, space is a vast amount of area, so it doesn't really say that she makes any connection with Guardians of the Galaxy or Thor, which is another question that's probably been coming out. But for what we know, there's no connecting there. Again, it's a space is a very large space, so it is unbelievable that they wouldn't cross paths. But who's to say that they never will? So I can be looking for that. November 11th is the potential release date. Guardians of the Galaxy supposed to be having sometime in 2023. Okay, directed by James Gunn. So the cast is TBA, but of course we can expect some of the highlight characters to reappear. So Quill, played by Chris Pratt, Rocket, Groot, Nebula, the girl with the antennas, Drax. Right, we can expect that they be in there. Gamora most likely will be an interest to be in there as well, since it's Quill's old interest that is now alive, but under a different time zone. So with all that, just be looking for that to connect at some point, and we can most likely expect to possibly having a debut or connecting slot somewhere with Thor, right? So obviously, since Guardians of the Galaxy are probably cameoing in some way in Thor, we can expect that maybe Thor himself and associate actors and actresses might actually debut as well in their movie. So, right, because that's follow it. So, we'll see what happens. Okay, so be looking out for that again sometime 2023, so a couple years from now. But they are in development mode. Okay, Ant-Man the Wasp, which I believe the name is called Quantumania. Okay, so what we know so far is that um, people from the cast has been Catherine Newton, all right, and that's separate from all the other characters that we already know, which is Paul Rudd, Evangeline Lilly, Michael Douglas, Michelle Pfeiffer will be all reprising their old roles, and then Jonathan Majors will be playing the villain Kang, the Conqueror, and then Catherine Newton will be joining the cast as an older version of Scott Lang's daughter. I didn't get to look up whether or not this was the same member that played his daughter in Endgame. Possibly could be, but depending on where the time zone is, with this movie coming out and not coming out like right away, because it's TBA right now, which means it probably won't be coming out to maybe 2020, late 2023 or early 2024. So we can assume that two or so years, passed, obviously since Endgame. So they're most likely getting a new version, a new person to play his daughter. But with that being said, just suspect that new face, but again, enjoy the old cast. What names I do not see in here are some of his associate comedic actors that, of course, were in Ant-Man and Ant-Man 2, or Ant-Man and Wasp. So we can assume that they're probably going to be in the movie since there was such an intricate comedic relief in the first two. But again, this is in pre-production, so they're not even on set yet. So just be expecting more names to possibly join as we go further. Fantastic Four. There's literally little to no information in regards to this movie and the next one. So this one is in development. Right, director is going to be John Watts. So from what we know, which is the same director that's from Spider-Man: Homecoming and Far From Home, and of course the director is going to be doing a third movie as well. Right, he's going to be introducing a new characters, right, and then we'll enter them into the MCU, which means the connecting dots are starting to take form, right? So the multiverse happening, WandaVision happening, Doctor Strange's multiverse of madness, and all this stuff is going to connect to where it's going to allow different universes to kind of co-join. Then that's how we're going to see Fantastic Four and the X-Men and all those things come together. So all these are like really awesome working parts. So you thought Endgame was a great culmination of just a great mindset, having to look 10 years forward and planning accordingly in every little nugget given up to that point. Then hopefully we'll all be amazed as they start to piece things together over the next several years with putting in all these different universes. And yeah, I can't wait for the next in-game type of movie where we see all these heroes together. So again, it's gonna be awesome, right? So again, John Watts, um, same director. Obviously, he's been doing some great things for Spider-Man, so we trust him with Fantastic Four, and I guess we'll see what cast we get for that this time, right? So we're glad this being recast because obviously two of the characters were already part of the MCU and other parts, and which they did very well. So it's time to recast anyway because even though Cap's older, Cap can be Cap and Flame, right? So and Torture Me. So again, we're glad it's recast, and we're gonna see what happens. And then Blade is the last one I'll be mentioning, right? Is in development, but the cast member, the director has not even been mentioned yet, y'all. So yes, when you know it's in development. But the cast is Mahershala Ali, right? So he's been in Oscar-winning Moonlight and Green Book, right? Those are some of his recent acclaims, right? And so he's going to be the new Blade. Now, of course, if you've seen Blade, the old school Wesley Snipes, great movie. I used to love that stuff. actually wasn't really tracking until like recently, a few years ago, that it was actually Marvel. I'm not even sure if they even put that on screen in regards to it being a Marvel character at that time when they were airing it. But good to know now, and it's great to know that he will somehow be intertwined into the MCU. Also, that would be to have a Blade, you know, killing machine, awesome, can figure out how to take out vampire type of hero, along with all the other heroes who are going to have all their powers. I mean, it's outstanding what they're putting together. So if you guys are not putting all this together in your head and getting excited, I don't know what you're missing because we're going to have a kung fu warrior. We're going to have what's that mummy, but a vampire killing, slaying dude, Fantastic Four. We're gonna have the multiverse, so a few different Spider-Men. We're gonna have Ant-Man and the Wasp, and who knows who's gonna grow into that portion as well, right? And who's gonna add to that? Guardians of the Galaxy. I think they usually acquire a new member every movie, so who knows how long it's gonna be. Captain Marvel 2 is probably gonna acquire several heroes to include um, the development of Tiana Paris, who's playing Monica Rambeau in WandaVision right now. So who knows where she's going to end up? If you read the comics, you know what she becomes. So I'll be quiet on that for now because I don't want to give away any nuggets that might be within WandaVision. And then of course you have Thor: Love and Thunder, right? With another Thor out there somewhere, with of course the King, right by his side. Multiverse, who knows where that's going to open up? Okay, and then of course we have possibly maybe even a new Black Widow might take Natasha's place at some point, since that's the way the comics goes. And then of course Spider-Man. We know what's going to come of that as far as the villains and the multiverse and who's going to transfer over. And whatever. You guys have seen the multiverse or the Spider-Verse with Miles Morales, which is a great movie, right? So who knows who's going to be skipping over to different universes and all that. And then y'all, then we got the Eternals. What? All these super powerful, pretty much immortal people, and all these folks are going to be somehow connected to we're gonna have like the ultimate Avengers team. You thought the other Avengers team was awesome. This is gonna just take it up a notch. So Marvel is doing some great things, y'all. I love what they're doing. I love what the MCU is taking into effect. And now one thing to kind of leave you with now, me and people on here that they love comics. They love comics. So I grew up with comics myself. But what people have to remember is that comics will be kind of the guide, to kind of understand where the powers came from, where the character came from, where the people came from, right? And then uh, apprising their characters accordingly, and fitting them into the universe as makes sense. There are several comics that would say that Wolverine was fighting right aside Captain America, but since we didn't have those legal rights to bring in X-Men, obviously, the movies are going to be different than what we were able to do in the comics, right? So the comics is going to be different than the movies. So I understand that the movies aren't always going to match the comics, y'all. But that's all right. MCU is doing great things with the movies. It doesn't have to match the comics exactly. We get it. Some people are even much more stronger as far as character wise in the comics than they are. But sometimes stuff doesn't play out the same way on TV, and we just have to kind of take look, right? So again, they're doing some great things. It's not gonna match all the comics exactly, but they're taking the information from it, right, in honor of those who wrote it, and then taking it to different levels that logically makes sense. As much as these are superpowered type beings and people with all these awesome heroic thoughts and mindsets, what MCU likes to do is bring it to the fact check where it can be any of us. Like any of us could have been that person flying a person to their spaceship in outer space and then getting blasted by some power that I was trying to blow up so the other person didn't get it. All of a sudden, whoops! I wake up. I'm Captain Marvel. That could have been anybody. So the whole point that MCU is trying to make is say, hey, these heroes are definitely heroes, the top of the top, but it could be you. It could be any of us. And I think they try to make it to where it's not so impossible to imagine, and they do a great job building these characters. He's making it something that we can follow. I don't know about you guys. There's tears, laughter, and all that kind of stuff built around MCU. And nothing does that like watching a great epic genre or movie or show kind of just forces you to bring your emotions into it. Iron Man died. I think all of us, was sitting there sobbing like he was our cousin or something. Like he was like we just talked on the phone yesterday about how we're gonna get coffee. Like, all of us took it personally. Why? Because MCU does a great job about making it personal. So,
All right, so this is Agent Johnson, and see you next time for more Marvel action.
We hope you enjoyed the show today. Do us a favor and click on the like button or share our podcast. Thanks for listening. Till next time, we are Highway 54.